Yeah, it is. It was a little like daunting beforehand to know like what the crowd's going to be like. You know, are they going to want more stickers, or are they going to be into
Yeah,
prints,
yeah,
or
yeah.
like, yeah. So I kind of procrastinate though, like, unless it's like a big show like San Francisco. I was prepared for like enough in advance to not have to like stress or anything.
And welcome back to another episode of Art of the Bay Sessions. Today we are joined by our special guest, Spencer. How's it going?
Doing good.
We were just watching the latest Pinocchio movie before we started recording, and yeah, I feel like it's, and this is not a sponsorship by the way, but I feel like it's probably one of the best like claymation animations that I've seen in a while. I can't even imagine like how long it took to do that.
Yeah, I'd say so. It's pretty beautiful, just like the detail and everything. The behind the scenes feature that's on Netflix is really cool too. Just like seeing the puppets and stuff. It was done by a studio in Mexico and everything.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just watched this other claymation movie called The Mad God, and like the like animation supervisor from Pinocchio did that movie. And it's weird. It's just like grotesque, like weird stuff. There's not really like a narrative, like a straight story. It's just all these random weird things happening.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Nice. I'll definitely check that one out too, because yeah, now I'm in a binge of like I want to check out more animations of it, especially those different types that I don't get to see on a normal basis.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for making the trip out here. I know like we had to kind of reschedule a couple things because of the recent weather, but thank you for making the time to come out here.
For sure. I appreciate the invite.
Awesome. We usually start the podcast by just kind of, just trying to get to know you a little bit more. So if you don't mind, what has been your art career, and like kind of just like a recap of overall just your career, and then anything based in the arts itself?
I mean, I started drawing when I was a kid, but I went to school for design, and I actually switched my major from communications to graphic design. And so when I made that switch, I took some art classes for like prereqs.
Yeah.
And that's when I really started getting heavy into art again. In high school, I kind of fell out of it a little bit.
Yeah.
But I was playing with like Photoshop, kind of like collaging a little bit in Photoshop.
Yeah.
And I was in a band, so I was making flyers and stuff for our merch.
Yeah.
So I was already sort of felt like I was doing design. So yeah, I made that switch and graduated from CSUMB in Monterey 2017. And then been working as a designer from then on, basically, and then doing kind of art on the side last 3-4 years.
Yeah.
I started kind of tail end of 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started doing pop-ups and stuff like that.
Nice. What made you choose that school to kind of go in for that major and everything?
So I applied to San Jose State and the University of Monterey. The small class sizes and the cheaper tuition kind of sold it to me. Plus, it was kind of close to home. My parents grew up in Monterey, so pretty familiar with the area. I have family there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there any classes that kind of stood out to you the most while you were there?
And the design classes were cool. I got into like, I was surprised how much I liked coding, like web coding, learning JavaScript. I don't use it really anymore, but just the like thing of learning how to talk to computers and like make them display something was kind of cool. also, I had a mixed media class, and my professor was Sean Boyles. He owns No Future Gallery in Japantown in San Jose. And then it was the art shop before. I forget what it was called already.
Right.
Yeah, so he was my professor at university doing an art class. So that was cool.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So that's kind of cool that you get to still have like a good relationship with him, and now still sharing the same space within the art world at that point.
Yeah,
that's awesome. What would you say are some of your art influences? Like, I know you were kind of mentioning it a little bit, but what kind of motivated you when you were like in high school or even younger to start doodling or any of that stuff?
Well, when I was younger, definitely like cartoons and stuff. I mean, I was born in '89 and grew up in the '90s, so like all the Nickelodeon cartoons, the like Saturday morning superhero cartoons, Spider-Man and all that. Video games too, and then now it's a lot of the same. Like I feel pretty inspired by like my childhood hobbies and stuff. I still love like animation, and have like expanded, I guess, in my pop culture knowledge and just like movie knowledge and stuff. So it's kind of inspired by everything, I guess. But like comic book artists, Wes Craig, even like Damon Albarn, the artist for the Gorillaz.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
The thing I was actually talking to a friend recently is like, back then when kind of the same influences of like shows on Nickelodeon and everything, I always just enjoyed it because of the art style and the animation. But as a kid, I didn't really, of course, do the research of like who did what or whatever until I was older, like a teenager or even in my 20s. So when you look back on it and then start actually noticing the same art style in a different show that you enjoy, and then make the connection like, oh, it's the same people, I think it's always kind of cool to look back and finally know like who was behind the scenes of making all those shows and everything.
Yeah, for sure. Like, obviously when I was a kid, like I wasn't looking at who is like the head animator or like, on the animation studio actually doing it. It was just like, oh, it's a Nickelodeon show, But now now we know that the animator or the creator of Hey Arnold worked on like Rugrats and stuff. This stuff is connected. Or obviously like Craig McCracken, I think that's his name. He did like Powerpuff Girls and like a bunch of the Cartoon Network, Dexter's Lab, all that stuff. So like now knowing all this information is just seeing like all the connections between cartoons I grew up with.
And it's also kind of like people call it like the golden era of like cartoons and everything. And I think we were lucky because since we didn't have the same alternatives that people have now, where they have like the internet and streaming and just so many options that they can kind of explore. Luckily, we had like so many talented animators who had like these basic cable channels or whatever. And like they still had like amazing animation compared to like if it was something just whatever on. We kind of had no option back then, but thankfully they were actually really good animators too at that point.
Yeah, and I feel like studios were more willing to like take a risk and like be weird. Like Ren and Stimpy, like shit's wild. And I mean, I feel like that kind of evolved into like SpongeBob, sort of like there's those weird like close-up grotesque shots and stuff. But I just feel like there was just more cartoons coming out and stuff. Plus like every cartoon had like a video game and like a series of toys and like it was just like there's so much stuff. It
was easy to kind of just get influenced by it and also just collect things as a kid because they just did such a good job overall. Speaking of which, I saw and I definitely got a couple of your stickers and prints of your kind of Nickelodeon series with the different cartoons and everything. How do you go about doing like those kind of projects? Because I know you also made them into like trading cards and everything. So how is that process? Like, how do you think of something and then start mapping out like the whole? Because I know that probably took a while to just kind of map out everything.
So the whole like crossover project, the Marvel superhero Nickelodeon cartoon mashup thing, started with a contest on Instagram.
Oh, okay.
And the prompt was a combination of Rocco and Wolverine. So that was how it started, and then maybe like a year after that, I went back and redid that illustration and made some stickers.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know, it was a couple years after that that I started thinking of other combinations. I think the first one that I thought of was the Arnold in Captain America. And then I was like, oh, well, who would be Falcon? Obviously Gerald.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like the Angry Beavers as Scott, Summers, Cyclops, and Havoc because they're brothers. So the Beavers are brothers. Like they work perfectly.
Yeah.
And then yeah, just kind of like spun, just thinking like what characters from there could be which teams and things like that, and just like yeah, I don't know, it's just fun, like how perfectly things matched up. Like
Right.
yeah, the Rugrats as Fantastic Four and Angelica being Doom, like yeah.
The perfect antagonist at that point. What would you say was probably like your favorite aspect of coming up with everything?
Yeah, it took a while. And I actually wasn't even really sure what I was gonna do with it for a while. I was thinking, oh, like I would just make some stickers, and then I ended up drawing all the characters and decided trading cards. I found this vendor, a printing vendor in Sacramento,
Mm-hmm.
and they specialize in like comic artist stuff. Like they would print comic books. They have like puzzles, you know, pop-up banners and stuff like that. And one of the items they offered were trading cards. So I was like, I don't know, just like, oh, that would be perfect, you know?
Yeah.
And then honestly, I think aside from just like thinking up the combinations, thinking up the little bios on the back.
Yeah.
It was like the character on the front and then all the stats and a little bio on the back. Thinking up the little bio was a lot of fun. And then just having like a physical thing, wrapped and everything was cool.
Yeah. Speaking of which, with pop-ups, that's how you and I had met. Where I think it was at the Plex in San Jose.
The Friend Fest.
Yeah. That was the first time we had met, and what we wanted to do with this season is just interview various like artists who have experience doing pop-up events. Do you remember what was your first like pop-up event that kind of got everything started?
I started selling around Monterey. A friend of mine was working at the Dali Museum, and she would host a monthly like art pop-up there, basically.
Yeah.
So I feel like that was probably the first thing. And then the Monterey Art Museum did a zine fest.
Oh, okay.
And so I turned those card designs into a zine to sell there, and then had, you know, some of my stickers and stuff. And then it just kind of grew from there.
Yeah.
Started coming out here to San Jose, doing stuff with SJ Made. And yeah, their Friend Fest this year is coming up March 3rd weekend.
Oh, okay.
First weekend of March.
Yeah.
I think it might be in the same place. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Because I've seen that you did those type of events, and then most recently, there was a large one in like San Francisco, right?
Yeah, I did a fan expo in San Francisco. It was the first convention back in the city in like years.
Yeah.
It was Thanksgiving weekend. It was cool. It's kind of slow. I think just being the first year in a while,
right.
Like that holiday weekend, just like the combination. But hopefully, it'll pick up. I think they have like a 5-year contract with the with the convention center there.
Yeah.
So hopefully, as the years go by, like the attendance will grow as word spreads and stuff.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we did an event there before the pandemic, but I think it was done by a different or maybe it might have been the same, but they were branded as San Francisco Comic Con, and they had it at that same location. It was a good turnout, but of course that was before the pandemic, so it totally makes sense now that things have still kind of slowed down, and then, you know, like how you mentioned with the holidays and everything. From that, what would you say? Like, I know that was probably. Have you done other like larger convention style ones, or was that your first one?
That one was probably the largest. But even the SJ Made Winter Market. I feel like that has better turnout. The 2 years that I've like attended that, than the San Francisco one did.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just kind of starting to get into bigger events and like comic conventions, anime like fan events like that.
Yeah.
Last year I did this Santa Cruz. It was the Capitola Collecticon, uh, and that was pretty good. Smaller,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm trying to get into some bigger ones. It's kind of the goal for this year.
Yeah. And it seems like everything is starting to like open up, and people, of course, also want to get out there as well. So it kind of is hopefully the perfect time to do it. From that experience, like, have you noticed any of the differences or preferences between like a large scale one and kind of more like the intimate setting ones?
Um, I mean, I do love like regular ones in Monterey, which obviously are a bit smaller. My buddies have a brewery in Seaside called Other Brother, and they'll do like quarterly pop-ups and stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's the smaller ones are cool because people don't feel so rushed, I guess, and like you know they can stop and look at your stuff and talk to you and everything. I feel like the customer base with like SJ Made with their winter market, even being such a big and like busy event, people are really nice.
Yeah.
But again, like San Francisco, it was kind of slow, so and not like super packed. I think a lot of people were there for the celebrity guests and stuff.
Yeah.
Like getting autographs upstairs versus being on the first floor where all the vendors were. But yeah, it was cool.
Yeah. I think we kind of noticed a similar pattern too when we did kind of those shows there. And I don't think it was San Jose Made. It was a different event that happened in San Jose. And they also kind of the same thing. It was more focused towards like the celebrity aspects and the companies that. Oh, it was Silicon Valley. That was the other one that we had.
Silicon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I volunteered at the first one when it was like Stan Lee and Tim Cook's Silicon.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's kind of how I started getting into conventions, was volunteering.
Oh, okay.
I went to the Big Wow in San Jose, which was like years ago, and then there was a alternative press expo in San Francisco.
Yeah.
At I think the Mason or somewhere over there, and I volunteered at that one, and then volunteered at Silicon.
Yeah.
And then
How was that experience overall? Like volunteering? I think I've only done it for this other show that used to happen in San Mateo, where it was more like I'm already blanking on the name, but I was mostly volunteering for like the bike valet parking and everything. So I wasn't actually in the hall like with any volunteer work there.
The alternative press one was cool. I just handed out badges for a few hours, and then like walked the floor the rest of the time.
Yeah.
Silicon, I actually ended up leaving halfway. So I got there in the morning. I think I was like just at the line, like making sure people were scanning their badges to walk through or something like that.
Yeah.
Because their system was kind of weird. I feel like they didn't just have wristbands or something. It was like a badge that you had to scan to go in, and people weren't used to it and stuff.
Yeah.
And so at lunch, I told them like, oh, I have a family emergency. I gotta go. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, don't worry about it. And then I just like walked the floor, and then went home. I didn't stay the whole day.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fairly large one that it's not like kind of like the smaller ones where people really are needed for anything like that. So I think it's totally fine. What would you say, either mentally or physically preparing for like a longer show, like if you were at a show for like 2 to 3 days as a vendor? Like, because from my experience, it really just depends on like the overhead and just like the attendance and everything. But how have you prepared for like these kind of like longer events that either multiple days or just like you're starting from 10 a.m. to like 7 or something like
that? I like the multi-day events. They're cool. Like Friend Fest was 2 days. SJ Made, the year that I did the winter, it was 3 days. I think it's back to 2 now.
Yeah.
San Francisco was 3. I feel like it could have been 2 because that Friday night it was only open for like 3 hours and barely anybody came through.
Oh yeah.
It's cool. I like talking to people about my art, so I enjoy it. And yeah, sometimes it can be slow and get a little bored, but I mean, I'll usually have like a sketchbook or something to keep myself occupied.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you that. Like, are you able to kind of like sketch when you're at these events? Because I know people vary where like they're just there and they just kind of just stay focused with everyone around them, but some people are able to like sketch and kind of talk to people.
Yeah, if it's slow enough, I'll definitely sketch in my sketchbook, or if like bring my iPad, I'll draw on my tablet. Just depends on how busy it is.
Yeah, I always admire that too, because like my brain is always scattered everywhere that I can't like multitask like that. So
yeah, I mean, people watching's fun, and like especially with San Francisco, there's a lot of cosplayers.
Oh yeah,
So there are some cool like costumes and stuff. So people watching at conventions is cool.
Yeah.
And if it's slow enough, then like I'll also kind of check out the other vendors and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, see the other artists.
Yeah. Have you been able to kind of like with your experience so far? Have you been able to properly gauge like your inventory for events, or have there been moments where it's like you had too much or too little going into an event?
I've never run out yet, so usually I'll make a little too much, but yeah, it was a little like daunting beforehand to know like what the crowd's going to be like. Are they going to want more stickers, or are they going to be into prints, or like so I kind of procrastinate though. Unless it's like a big show like San Francisco, I was prepared for like enough in advance to not have to like stress or anything, but sometimes I'll procrastinate, and I try to keep track of I keep track of all my sales, but not necessarily like how much of each individual thing I'm selling. Mm-hmm. So that's something I gotta be better at.
Yeah.
Our online store is almost ready to launch. Here are some of the items that will be available. We've also collaborated with local artists on some unique designs. Be sure to follow our social media pages for the latest updates.
I was going to ask you you mentioned it earlier with the create and let me make sure I get it right. The create and connect events that you started doing. How did that kind of start? Like what was the influence to start creating these meetup events?
So like years back, some friends were doing a drink and draw, and then that kind of fell apart. So another group of friends started back up, and we were doing it weekly, kind of all over the area, Monterey. And then everybody kind of got busy. The pandemic shut everything down, so there wasn't really a place to meet. And then I had met new people, other artists in the area in Monterey, and they were like, "Oh, that's so cool that you guys used to do this. Like, if somebody does it again, like, let me know, or you should,
nice.
You should do it." And everyone was just kind of saying like, "Oh yeah, somebody should do this. Somebody should do this." And I was like, "Well, I'll do it."
Yeah.
And yeah, so I've been doing the meetups once a month, every third Thursday, in Seaside at Other Brother, my friend's brewery. The owners are really good dudes, and try to make it like a really big like community space. So they do like art pop-ups, they do food pop-ups, they have live shows. So when I talked to one of the owners about hosting the meetup there, because they have an upstairs that they'll reserve for private events, they're all for it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's always helpful too, like if the venue itself already kind of provides that openness for that community as well. That I think it sounded like the perfect opportunity and the perfect venue to kind of try out those events. Yeah.
Plus they have good beer and there's food there, so it's like perfect meetup space.
Yeah. How has it been so far? Like, have you been seeing some of the regulars, and like how has the community been so far with these meetups?
In the beginning, it was a lot of just my friends and like people I already knew.
Yeah.
And then I started sharing on like Reddit, and then recently submitted to like the Monterey County Weekly, just like the weekly
Oh, nice.
paper.
Uh-huh.
So they have it on their community event calendar. So after I went from like strictly sharing on Instagram to like other kind of like outlets,
Yeah.
there's a lot more new faces,
Yeah.
which has been cool.
Nice. Yeah, that's cool. And like how you said it's just spreading the word to make sure like people, if they didn't know about it, like now, either by you posting it on different outlets or just word of mouth, like hopefully it does just continue to grow at that point.
Yeah, for sure. And then before I was only sharing on my own like art Instagram, and then I recently made a separate account for the meetup. So I feel like it's helped to like kind of make it more welcoming versus like just being my account. It's like actual event account for people to get information and like share and everything.
Yeah, and they can kind of just find it directly and like, oh, what's the next meetup event? And then they can just see like either the latest post or story or anything like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. I was going to ask you, you were saying the different mediums that you've been exploring or trying out. Is there still a medium that you are I guess you kind of mentioned it with the 3D printing. Is there any other medium that you want to try out that you still haven't tried out?
I've only done like a couple clay sculptures, so I'd like to work with clay some more. Keep working on the block printing. Maybe get into some bigger pieces with that. Other than that, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Obviously, if I do like 3D printed toys, I would need to pick up some like 3D sculpture software. Motion graphics is something that I've gotten into, kind of trying to learn right now for work, but also for like personal stuff.
Right.
So like a little bit of animation and like motion graphic stuff.
Yeah. That's what I'm kind of focused on because I tried doing that as well. Where doing traditional animation and even digital animation, but it just wasn't something that I was like super picking up or super interested in. But then when I drifted over into more of like the more motion design aspect, it kind of was kind of like the best of both worlds because that's where I really enjoyed like the illustration part of it and still really enjoyed animation. So that was kind of like the perfect hybrid at that point. I thought it was really cool. With 3D printing, like, have you decided to pick up like a 3D printer and everything, or still?
No, at one of the pop-ups that I did, this guy was talking to me and basically said like if I give him the 3D files, like he'd be down to print for me. So probably just do that.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat where I would rather work with someone who already knows what they're doing and like can help me either learn it or just collaborate together. I feel like if I get it, I can purchase it, but I feel like I won't have the time and resources to really dedicate to it. That I would rather just collaborate with someone at that point.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a company, I think they're based out of San Jose, definitely Bay Area. I'm spacing on the name. It's like something in props or props and something. But they do like 3D printed toys for a lot of like Bay Area artists and probably have, clients all over. But so they'd be another option that I'd look into.
Yeah.
They do like the SJ Made events and stuff too.
Oh, okay. Nice. Yeah, that would be cool just to kind of collaborate and work with people like that. We were talking about the different influences of seeing like the shows that we grew up with. Was that like a heavy influence into like your art style? And how did you kind of like start navigating that? Like how did you start seeing like, okay, this is how my work is starting to look out after? Because I think that's always the hard part, like when you first start, that you feel like you're just kind of mimicking others' work or something. Was there a moment that you realized like it's starting to becoming uniquely yours at that point?
Not really. I still have a hard time like feeling like I have my own personal style, but I guess just the way I combine my influences makes it my own, I get in a way. Just kind of like an amalgamation of all my influences. but yeah, I just feel like I also have different styles too, and so it's hard to feel like I have a distinct one.
Yeah. Because I definitely can kind of see it when you were saying with the kind of like the old vintage look from it, making it seem like it was from the 90s. Like, yeah, when I started seeing your work, like that's what kind of like made me say like, oh, that's like Spencer's work. Like it definitely gave like a vibe like, oh, this is something you did. Even like with the shirt that you have, like it feels like, oh yeah, that's like his style. Like it reminds me of like those Rocco's Modern Life or something. Like it fits that style that once I saw it, I was like, okay, yeah, that's definitely your work at that point.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes the like subject that I'm drawing will kind of dictate the style of it too. Yeah, like the like cartoon style versus like this, where I kind of made it, more the manga style.
Yeah. I forgot to mention earlier when we were talking about your animation work. I did see the animation project that you did. Was that for the nonprofit that you had mentioned before?
That was for my job now.
Okay.
I work for a marketing agency based in Salinas, and during the pandemic, they were doing a lot of the like COVID outreach for the county of Monterey for the health department.
Yeah.
And yeah, I had been with the job maybe a month or two. I had never done animation before. My boss asked if I wanted to like spearhead the project. He and the project manager like wrote the lyrics for the song for kids, saving or wearing masks saves lives.
Yeah.
And asked if I'd want to do a video for it, and I was like, yeah, I'll give it a try.
Yeah.
And so like I kind of did the like art direction first, just looking at a lot of old school cartoons, really simple stuff like Schoolhouse Rock, like some of those like Sesame Street animations.
Oh, right, yeah.
And some like older like 90s Disney stuff too. And then we like pitched it to this one animator, but a lot of the stuff he did was very like corporate. Just really, I don't know, not the style that I wanted. So I asked if I could, give it a shot on my own and watch some videos on like YouTube and stuff.
Yeah.
And did it all in Procreate with the like animation assistant in there. So it's kind of, it is kind of like traditional in a way of like, if you were to like do a flip book or something and you're drawing like, the each frame and then you flip it, is sort of like that. Like each layer is a frame and then it just kind of puts it all together.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
Nice. Was it? I've never used Procreate. Like, was it pretty much what you wanted, or did you wish there was a couple of other features that would have made it easier or anything like that?
I mean, for my first animation, I feel like it was easy enough.
Yeah. Nice.
Pretty intuitive.
Yeah. Nice. I definitely want to give it a try because I'm only used to the Adobe suite with whatever their options are, but even then I haven't like done like a deep dive into exploring all the tools that they offer. Yeah,
and then I used Adobe. I forget if I used Premiere or After Effects, but like so in Procreate I just did like scenes and then I cut them together in Adobe and then put the audio over it.
Yeah. Roughly how long from start to finish did that whole production take?
A couple months.
Yeah.
I mean, I had other projects and stuff too. But yeah, I think I had clocked in about 40 hours of work on it.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Do you keep track of that at all? Like, not just for that, but when you work, like, for some of your sketches, like, do you keep track of it, or is it pretty much you just go in there and just do it?
I just do it, and then I always think like, oh, I should keep track of how long this takes so that I know if I do get commissions, like, the, like a good rate to do it. But I never keep track of my personal projects. I mean, for work I have to, because we build clients for our time and stuff.
Right. To gauge the time, I think it's always hard to do at that point. I saw your I don't know if it was last year or the year before with your Inktober kind of prompts. Like, how is that for you? Like, how do you also plan ahead, or you just use the prompts at that point?
I've finished Inktober twice. I'll usually fall behind and need to catch up.
Yeah.
I've tried a few other times that I didn't finish it.
Yeah.
It's fun, like just forcing, I don't know, not forcing myself, but like having the prompts to like just draw every day for a month. I think for one of them, probably for both. I mean, at least like we'll plan in the sense of like, oh, these are the words. What am I going to do like for it? But I think that's kind of the extent of my planning. Sometimes if I have like a really solid idea, maybe I'll sketch a little thumbnail beforehand.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of like on the spot, like just each day.
Yeah. No, I asked that just because like it looks like you go into like the same thing where you polish it up in like Illustrator or something like that, because they look really polished by the end. That it's not like a standard one where people just do it in like a sketchbook and then that's the doodle. Like yours look like they were legit, like just made professionally and just kind of like polished up in Illustrator. I thought they came out really cool.
Yeah, I did for both series. I did them all in Procreate. And yeah, I guess they'll be planned in the sense of like a theme, like the 2020. I did like a whole series of this bear character also, with like the pun of, you know, if he's, I think one of them was like cranberries. So I was thinking like fermented berries. So it's like oh so intoxicated.
Yeah.
Just kind of like a play on words. So each day had the bear character, and then the following year, I wanted to just use like one color on each piece, I think, or one or two colors on each piece, and use like a paper texture and like halftones on a lot of them. So like I'll at least try and plan and like keep a theme going, so that it seems like a full series.
Yeah. I think that's what made it feel like a full series, is by you going through different color palettes at that point. Because when you see it, especially like on your phone or whatever, when you're scrolling through Instagram, that it just looks very cohesive and colorful at that point. So I thought they were really cool. Saying that, what would you say? Like, I know it's hard since we've talked about a couple of different projects. What probably has been some of your favorite projects, either by yourself or if you've collaborated with people on different projects?
I mean, the trading cards was a lot of fun. I have a buddy who has a coffee shop in Hollister called Calavera. And he commissioned me to design and illustrate labels for their like to-go beverages.
Oh, nice.
So that was a lot of fun, getting to do that. And then I've done a couple since, like seasonal drinks and things like that.
Yeah.
And then like this one with Adopt My Block. Dirtbag Dan, who you probably know. He does his dog fostering. He hit me up to do a shirt design. And then we were kind of thinking of like anime things to for the design. And then thought of obviously like Kakashi with, his squad of ninja dogs. So that one was a fun one.
That's awesome. Yeah. I think that's always the cool part, is like, when you work with different either friends or clients, like it lets you explore something or a medium or a style that you may have not done before. And of course you just get more experience at that point. So that's what I love about like collaborating with people or just working with people on different like commission projects, that it expands your horizons at that point. Yeah,
for sure. Because people will sometimes think of something that I would never would have thought of, it's fun to collaborate.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I definitely want to thank you for your time. This was an amazing chat, and I would love to talk to you more about future projects that you're going to work on. Did you want to like plug or shout out anybody before we headed out?
Dang, put me on the spot with that one. I don't know. I mean, I feel like a lot of your audience probably bay like up in this area, so I would say, you know, expand out a bit, I guess. Like check out artists from Santa Cruz, Monterey area. It's cool to kind of like bridge the gap and go in between scenes and see stuff that you probably wouldn't if you kind of just stuck to your area.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely try to reach out to more people. I think that's the whole point, is like in general, we're staying kind of like how we were mentioning earlier, that it's good to get a starting point with friends and family first, but hopefully the word just keeps spreading, and then we just start collaborating with more people in different areas at that point.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I know you have your own water bottle, but we'll just do like the fake cheers here. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you.
Awesome. And thank you for tuning in once again, and we will see you next time. Take care.
If you enjoyed the fun chat, don't forget to subscribe. Audio versions of the podcast are also available on all popular podcast platforms. Links available in the episode description. Thanks again for listening.
No rules, baby, improvise. Summer heat in the sheets every night. Cool you down, kiss your spine with some ice, that's right.